Hi, everyone. It's kind of interesting now. We had a bit of trouble trying to connect here. So if you have any comments, if you can see me, hear me, anything like that, that would be really, really good to know. Then I'm just going to try to... Great. Great. I can see the chat. I can see lots of nice sisters tuning in here. Really, really good. And I'm hoping you can hear me. I was a bit of like that the sound is not going to be too low, but that you can hear me. That's always really good to know now from the start. So there's not going to be any issues about that later. Good. You can both see and hear me. I wish I could see you also. I wish I could see you all. Okay. So I had a bit of a messy little start here. I think we're all going to just take a moment to tune in so that we can really connect and feel that we're present and that we're together in this, and we can share the moment and we can really, really connect to this moment and to this here and now and to everything that's going to be happening and what we're going to be talking about for the next hour. And I also just want to express so much gratitude, and it's a real honor and a real privilege to be here today talking to you. It's such a beautiful project, and I want to express so much gratitude and for what Sharda has been able to get going here. It's been this little beautiful idea and seed that is now blooming into the most beautiful flower, and it's just growing and becoming bigger and more beautiful. And yeah, it's such a wonderful project and such a beautiful and inspiring group to be part of. So thank you for that, and thank you for all of you who are joining us today. Okay, so let's take a couple of moments. Feel free to close your eyes if you want to. We're just going to have a little bit of a meditation just to tune into each other, to this present, and to our bodies before we start going. Okay. So a couple of deep breaths. Find a comfortable position. Doesn't matter how you sit or where you sit. Just what feels good for you. Feel free to close your eyes and feel how you can really relax your eyes. Let the eyes soften around the eyes. And letting that softness flow down so you can relax your jaws. If that makes your mouth fall open, that's also fine. Relax your tongue. Let the relaxed feeling flow down so you can relax your neck. Flowing down like a nice warm stream, relaxing your shoulders. Take a couple of extra moments here to feel if there's any tension in the shoulders and the neck. Letting it go, wash away. Now relax and soften the area around your heart center. Breathing into your heart, feel the softness, the kindness, the moment that we're all sharing now as sisters. And relaxing further down into our bellies. Let the belly expand, be soft. Just deep, slow breathing into this present moment. Your mind and your thoughts are welcome to go on vacation right now, to be free, to do something else. Now connect a little bit more with your breathing. Make your breath slow and deep. Maybe you want to count to 5 on the in-breath, making sure that the breath is passed on all the way down into your belly. You might want to place a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly, really to connect with your breath on the way down. And feel if there's any tension. If there's any tension around the throat area, around the heart area, or on the way down through the solar plexus and into our low belly. Feel that your belly can expand on your in-breath and how you can release on the out-breath. Slow, deep breathing. The frequency of counting to 5 on the in-breath and to 5 on the out-breath is a good pace if that feels comfortable. This is also the best way to activate our vagus nerve, helping us go from any kind of stress, fight, flight, freeze, and into the beautiful mode of rest and digest. And it's also a great way of experiencing or noticing if there is any tension around the breath, any tension anywhere in your body. Feel into that, just notice. You don't have to think about it, just notice it. And see if you can soften around that area. If you can try directing the breath to that place and just get more nourishment, more relaxation, more attention, softening and releasing. Breathing in on the count of 5 and out, releasing on the count of 5. Feeling your heart held softly and your nice soft belly expanding and releasing on the out breath. Now let go of the control of the breath. You may want to let your hands fall down into your lap and just let your breath regain its natural rhythm. Soft and calming. You might even feel some tingling or sensation in your hands. Welcome that. You might feel a little bit more of a release after you stop controlling the breath. Feel how wonderful that is. Just really take a moment to feel if there's anything that your body's expressing or anything that feels different. Any small sensation that might come up. Be woman, all women, nature nurture me. Be woman, no woman, all women, nature nurture me. Oh, all sisters out there, welcome if you just joined us. We just had a little meditation, a little breathing moment here to settle in. Feel free to open your eyes now, and then we'll continue with a little more talk. So, our topic today is Ayurveda, and apart from it being my favorite topic, it's also like such a huge, big topic. So it literally, holds so much. And Ayurveda is normally translated as the science of life or the knowledge of life. I really like to call it the wisdom of nature, and nature plays to me such a big part in it. It's really where it all comes from, and that's also why I really want to dedicate our little moment together today, our little time here to Bhumi Devi, Mother Earth, beautiful goddess of earth, beautiful mother who's having such a hard time at the moment, is doing her very, very best to take care of us, to nourish us, to love us, to nurture us. And we kind of feel behaving a bit like spoiled teenagers or brats at the moment. I think we're not really giving her the credit she deserves. She has so much love for us. She gives so much, and we're kind of playing the part as not really wanting to listen and want to go our own ways and figure things out for ourselves. And in this case, it might not be the best way, but hopefully our awareness will come back into place, and that we can give her the respect and the honor and the love she really deserves back from us. Okay, so Om Bhumi Devyai Namaha, to Mother Earth, to nature, where all this comes from, and where we come from, and where Ayurveda come from, and where it has all its roots. Because as many of you probably know, as you're lots of yogis out there, and many of you already have a lot of knowledge about Ayurveda, but it's such a interesting and vast topic, and the more I study it, the more I want to study it, and I never get tired of listening to other people talking about it or reading about it, and there's always something that I can learn from that. It might not be new ways of eating or anything like that. It might just be the way that someone says something differently, they bring in a new example, or they put things into a different perspective, and that's just really helpful also for broadening my own knowledge and for making things or the knowledge land, where it's supposed to land. So it's always helpful just to listen in and to get new perspectives, even though you think you might know all of this from before, and even though I guess a lot of you actually do. So I'm humble in that way that I'll be sharing things that many of you are already familiar with, but let's just still make this a time of coming together and share what we know. So also feel very, very free to post any comments and questions, as I might feel that very helpful. I'm used to giving a lot of talks and workshops about Ayurveda, but I'm mostly used to doing it in an organic way where I can really, interact and play with those of you who might be in the audience. But this is a new situation, so just talking and not having the feedback as we go along, it might be super nice just to hear in from you. So please feel free, if there's any questions, we might see if we can address them as we go along, or if you have any comments or any kind of practical things or whatever. So I'm going to try to pay attention and just do a little bit of reading down here, but otherwise we'll just see how we go. So first, I might just share a little bit. I'm not going to share a lot about my story, but it's kind of intertwined with the Ayurveda and the parts that has to do with nature that we talked a little bit about already, because I was fortunate enough to grow up very much surrounded by nature in a very simple lifestyle that I guess would be more common maybe 100 or 150 years ago. A super simple way of life. We didn't have a car, we didn't have a phone, we didn't have hot indoor running water. We grew most of our foods. Everything was prepared from scratch. So of course that sounds really, really beautiful and wonderful, but it also had its challenges, especially from my mother, who was taking care of two small children. My father was commuting and going back and forth into the city to work, and she was left alone with a lot of the work. And I see now how much hard work that was. But in nature, there's always things that you can be creative with. So for my brother and myself, I guess we just had the best way of growing up that we could ever have wanted. So that was until the bliss kind of shifted when we moved to the city, and I was about to start school. And then all of a sudden I met this tsunami of the other world that I was not that familiar with. And I hadn't interacted a lot with other children, so I was mostly safe in nature with animals and plants and everything that was going around there, used to playing with that and being creative and just feeling really safe in that environment. And then in the city, where there was so much other things going on, it was really, really hard to keep that inner peace and just be myself with all those things that was influencing me. And of course the comparison and the judgment and feeling that I was really, really different from everybody else because I didn't know what they did. I didn't have the same clothes that they did. I didn't know the same games they did. So it was really, really hard for quite a few years. And I think the shift just really came when I regained my connection with nature, where I felt I could really be safe again. And that didn't happen until quite a few years later. So it kind of just makes it very clear how, when we're taking away from nature and our true selves, and how that influences us, and how beautiful it then is when we can start regaining that connection, which was really a true homecoming for me, really. And of course, that interaction with the other world, or the environment, or the surroundings, is always going to be there influencing us. As Ayurveda teaches us, the basic, it's based upon, like you may probably know, the theory of the Panchamahabhutas, the 5 great elements, which says that we're all made up of the same 5 building blocks, and everything connects of that. And so the outside is connected to the inside, and everything has that play of wholeness, as we're all made up of the same building blocks and the same parts. So everything is connected, and everything has influence on each other. And in Ayurveda, we don't just use the elements, but then we also kind of pair them together to create the 3 doshas that you probably have heard about, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. I like to mention that the word dosha actually means something that's out of balance, and something that's fault, that has a fault to it. So whenever you talk about yourself, and it's nice to compare and ask and be curious about your own constitution and others' constitution, it's actually good not to use the word dosha and say what kind of dosha is you, because then, I mean, it's okay if you mean it as to be addressed as an imbalance, but you don't want to personalize yourself as a fault or an imbalance. So it's better to talk about your constitution. Might be the prakriti, which is our born constitution, our balanced state, how we come into this world that makes up who we are when we are in that perfect balanced state. Or it could be the vikriti, which is our imbalanced state, and that's where most of us, at least to some point, are trying to sort things out, being a little bit out of a balance, but always trying to get back into balance. And Ayurveda really offers us those super simple, intuitive tools of how we're going to regain that balance. And that's also why it feels a little humbling in a way to share this knowledge, because it really is such a basic knowledge, and it's so rooted in all of us. So it has a lot to do actually about to try to just being that naive, childish mind again, where we feel into things, and instead of distrusting it or inquiring too much into it, we can just like really accept that, I'm cold now, of course I'll put on a sweater, or this kind of things that will help us balance and respond to what we feel. So to try to make this a little more organized today, what I would like you to take away from this talk is the 3 main principles of Ayurveda, the 3 main areas that we're working on, and also 3 very, very simple tips that is going to work perfect for you, no matter if you're here in Norway where it's really cold, if you're in Sweden, if you're in Bali, if you're somewhere completely different. There's a couple of things that is going to be good for all of us to do, and it's those simple things that make up a huge difference. So for those of you who are not too familiar with the doshas that we talked about, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, that we often use to describe our own state. I've put out a lot of material on that on the resource page, and also there's going to be an Ayurvedic blog coming up, which I think is already, the first post is probably already out there on the Be Woman page, the internet page. And what I've posted now is a dosha quiz, that you can take, so you can get some help to figure out what your imbalanced state might be at the moment. And so if you try doing that and filling that out, just make sure that you're coming from the present, like you're addressing what's mostly true right now, because that's always where we want to work from. What's the case right now? Not what kind of imbalances you might have had in the future, but really what is the current situation here and now. So if you're going to fill out that and try to have a look at that, just be aware that you do it from the current state. And there you're also going to find a lot of information about the different doshas, their main areas in the bodies, how they come into play, and a lot of these things that can help you to learn some more about it. And if you know a lot about it already, you might pick up something new from that as well. So instead of talking and spending a lot of time going through all of that now today, which is kind of tempting, but it's just going to take a long time, and then we wouldn't be able to cover a lot of other topics. So I think we're just going to leave it at that, and then you can dive into that at your own pace, and if you feel like having a more look at that. So we're also, of course, in the presence of sisters and women here, mothers maybe, and Ayurveda is, I mean, it's equally important for everyone, but especially for us women, I think it gives us that knowledge that we really are connected to already, and that we're opening more and more to, and also because it's very intuitive, and as women we always also often have that intuition more embodied in us, and it's a sense and a feeling that might be more present to many of us. So it probably comes more natural to us than it does to many men. And also the emphasis that Ayurveda has on balance and on rest and nourishment and taking care of ourselves. It's really, really important for us as women. And I think one of the most helpful and yet for many difficult aspects today is just really the aspect of resting, and what that actually means to rest. We're living in this hugely yang influenced culture, especially here in the West. So I call it yang. It's not really the Ayurvedic word for it, but it's so easy to use that, the yin and yang, because everyone can connect to those opposite and has a feeling of what they mean. So I think it's just going to be easier to use those words. And like I said, society and our environment and everything today is so based around the yang qualities. So the influence and the way we get affected from the yang qualities is going to be coming on automatically. So it's going to be really hard to keep that out. So then it's going to be even more important for us to work on our yin qualities, our feminine qualities, and balancing those influences that we get. And it's also really important to think about rest. It's not just, sitting down, lying down on the couch with soft pillows and watching TV, because that might not be the best way to relax and to rest. The most important aspect of it is actually being able to be with ourselves without any of those influences. Just feel that we can relax in our own presence, that we don't need any stimuli, that we don't need the new bed or the new couch or anything like that. We just have the ability to be present with ourselves and find rest in that. And to many people, that might just be the biggest challenge they could be faced with. Because to many people, just being with ourselves, everything that's going on in our mind, our restless body. It's just that is a huge challenge. So the beauty of Ayurveda is also that everything that affects our bodies will affect our minds, and everything that affects our minds will affect our bodies. And that's also one of the main principles to remember. So if we're going to start off with the 3 basic principles, I'm trying to pair this into trees to make 3 of that and 3 of that, to make it a little bit more organized, also because I have a very pitter working mind, so it's nice to try to keep it easy to remember. And the first and biggest best thing to remember, that like the main principle, the overall main principle of Ayurveda, is to remember that like increases like, and that opposites brings balance. And so that's really what we want to take with us. And for simplifying that, I mean, we can just go with things that we feel, and then we can, pay attention to that. But if we need some help in that way, we have the Gurvadi Gunas, which is these 20 qualities that is paired up into 10 pairs, which can really be helpful in navigating that area of opposites. Oops, here comes a cat. I'm just going to put him down. And there's also going to be a note on that in the resources and on the blog, so you can have a look at that. But as an example, that is hot opposite to cold. It's fast opposite to slow, and it can be dry opposite to liquid, or to soft, to hard and soft. So just being aware of those opposites, and that they can be expressed both in our minds and in our bodies. They're expressed on the outside of us, on the inside of us. They're expressed all around us, and they do have a very big influence on us. So just being aware of those and trying to tap into those. And whenever we feel something that might be a little bit out of balance, and if something doesn't feel right, try to take a moment and just see if you can express that feeling or emotion in those words and with those qualities. And just by doing that, it's going to be a great assistant for how you can then balance that by using the opposite qualities as a medicine, as a mean of getting back into balance. So that's the first principle of like increases like, and opposites bring balance. The next principle I touched upon already, that everything that affects our mind will also affect our bodies, and everything that affects our bodies will affect our minds. It's all intertwined, it's all working together, so we can't separate one from the other. That means that what you eat is not just going to have an impact on your digestion and on your body, but it's also going to have an impact on your mind. And your thoughts, not just going to influence your mind, it's also going to influence our body. And we know that very, very well. And a good example of that is just with our nervous system. Like I mentioned upon in the meditation, like the breathing meditation that we were doing, that just all that stress really, really brings us into that fight, flight, and freeze mode. And that's going to have a huge impact on not just our immune system, but a really big impact on our digestion as well. So that's why it's called the opposite. It's called the rest and digest mode, where we are at peace, we are calm, and the body and the mind can have that space and that place to really take care of our digestion, because that is super important. And the digestion is not just physical, it's equally mental. So that's the second principle. And then the third principle is kind of a combined one. I haven't really made up my mind if I want to say that it's quality over quantity, or it's the principle of less is more, but they kind of go a bit hand in hand. It's also being aware of those really, really small shifts and those small actions and things that you can do on a daily basis, which is so much more effective than doing those big boot camp kind of things that you might just do once in a while but doesn't stick with you. So those really, really small steps that you can take in the right direction, they just makes a huge difference over time. And they're also going to more easily become your habits and your routines that you can stick to. And then there's also that part of quality over quantity, really, really not doing too much, but doing just a few things and just doing that probably with your full intention, and really putting yourself into that instead of trying to do too much. That's also one of our biggest challenges today, that we're really trying to do too much, and then we end up being so overwhelmed and putting ourselves down because we can't really feel like we can do anything. So the little things, like the small things there, are just super, super important. Like always go for the easiest way to start. Not start with what's different. Start with the easiest, simplest things, and then just go from there. So less is more, and quality over quantity. And I also want to say that a part that might also come into play there, or when we're talking about the balance, and if we're starting out trying to adapt to a more Ayurvedic lifestyle, it's interesting because you read all these things that, you know, you should eat this and you should do that, and so, but for many people it might be more the challenge of taking things away instead of adding things. We already have so much, and our system is so overloaded with all the things that we do, and we just keep piling up and piling up and piling up, and we have all these appointments, and we have all these to-do lists, and we have all these things that we think that we need to do. So it's really, really important to think maybe more about, what can I subtract, what can I take away before we start adding new things. So also be aware of that. See if there's anything that's not going to be beneficial for you, that doesn't serve you anymore. Then it might just be a good idea to start working on letting go of those things before you start adding new things. And then it's also going to free up the capacity to be able to do new things when you've freed up some space. So that was the three main principles, and we'll just jump on into the three main areas that it can be nice to be aware of. And of course, as many of you know who are already familiar with Ayurveda, we say that everything starts, like a good health starts with a good digestion. So the digestion is a really, really good and important topic. And I'm going to be sharing lots about that later, but that could also just take up hours and hours and hours right now. So we're not going to go too much into that, as this is just going to be an overview. And hopefully it can be inspiring to get a little bit of a sense of this, and then we can go more into depth at a later time. And when we talk about digestion, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just the physical digestion, it's equally much the mental digestion, which means that it doesn't just have to do with everything that we eat and drink during the day. It has just as much to do with what we take in mentally with all our senses during the day, and also taking time for that digestion to happen and to take place, and to let go of what doesn't serve us. So again, it's not just about what we eat, but being aware of everything that goes in through our senses. So if you were to do a detox, a lot of us think that, then we'll do, fasting, or we'll just have soup, or we'll just have mono diet, khichdi, or we'll do it in the Ayurvedic way or the other way that maybe others are used to. But very often we forget the fasting or the detoxing of our senses in that perspective. And actually, I think it's here in the West quite common that when you stop eating, or if you try fasting for a while, then you just need to stimulate your other senses even more, because it gets you like really, oh, what am I going to do now when I'm not going to eat? And then you're going to be looking for other things in other directions for your mind to go on and to be stimulated. And then we might have just creating an equal imbalance. So detoxing and purifying is not just about what we eat. It's a lot to do with our senses. And I think for many of us, equally important, if not even maybe more important. So that's the part that has to do with digestion. The next thing is also the balancing and calming of our nervous system. And again, the awareness of those two parts, where if we're in the stress mode, the fight, flight, or freeze mode, or if we are in the rest and digest, which most of us aren't nearly as much as we should and would be good for us. So just really finding ways to get into that mode, practicing like the breathing that we did in the beginning, the counting in and the counting out, like those slots of 5 seconds with the diaphragmatic breathing. It's really the most simple and beautiful way of connecting and activating your vagus nerve and getting yourself into that rest and digest mode. And here we can also draw upon that less is more thing that we talked about earlier. There are so many breathing techniques and there are so much we can do, but really the simplest is so often the best thing. And just that slow breathing, making sure you breathe all the way down into your soft belly, releasing the tension you might have around your heart, and just taking that moment. It doesn't have to take long, you know, it can be 2 minutes. It could be 2 minutes before sitting down and having a meal, and just make sure that you're in a state where you're actually able to digest the meal that you're taking in, instead of eating on the go and standing up and working and doing all those multitasking things at the same time. So being aware of how to balance our nervous system and how we can activate and get into that state of rest and digest is really, really, really important, especially again for us women who have a tendency to need to get everything done before we can relax, before we're able to sit down and relax, and then we might just jump back up again because there's something we forgot. And most men doesn't act the same way, so I think that's kind of a female thing. And it's also why we need to learn how to rest more, and also be aware of how our hormones play in those states. That normally the best way for us to act would be to act out of the place or a state of rest. So when we're rested, then we can act, and then we have energy. But for a lot of us, we're so used to doing it the other way around, that we think that, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, and then I have to work some more, and then I should do this and I should do that. And then maybe if I have the time when I've done all of that, then I might sit down to have a rest. But then we're already so wired up, and when we sit down, we're maybe not able to get down into that peaceful mode, or we're so exhausted that it's not going to be the quality of rest that we need. So we really, really need to pay attention to that, and take a note that if we're to act and be our best and serve our best, it needs to come from a rested place, from a place of rest, from a place of energy. Well, men have it the other way around. I mean, they go on and they have like these bursts of activities, and then they can just fall down on the couch and just rest without noticing things around them or anything. Like it's that basic thing in nature, you know, like they can go out and hunt, and then they come back and just leave the prey, and then they've done their work. And they're kind of good at keeping that, but we're as women, it's not really good at as learning to rest and know that's where we need to act from to be able to give our best. Yeah, so that was a little bit about our nervous system and the digestion. And the third part here is also the mind and body connection, our awareness, our presence, our ability to be present. And that's not just going to serve us as it's going to help us to be calm and relaxed, but it's also going to help us noticing how we can keep and maintain our balance and what we need to get into balance and how we are when we get out of balance. So presence and awareness in our bodies, in our mind, and also the connection between our minds and our bodies is also a really, really important state. And this is also where it comes in, maybe our questions, our spiritual paths, all those things that can deepen our knowledge, deepen our presence with ourselves, deepen our connection with nature, with oneness, with the whole of the universe and our inner truth. Very, very important aspect that can be quite hard to lead people onto as a therapist or in guidance, but it's not one to be bypassed. So it's really a matter of just trying to make those small openings and see what's approachable and available for people to start opening their minds and opening the connection between our minds and our bodies and our spirituality. Okay, so it's really unusual for me to just talk like I'm doing now. So this is, any questions so far before I jump into the last 3 tips that I want to give you for today's topic that you can all take home with you? Any questions, any comments so far? Does it make sense? All news? It's not false news, fake news? I can promise you it's not, so hopefully it's all good. Okay. So the 3 tips that I would like you to take home with you from today, they're going to be really helpful wherever you are in the world. If you're in Bali and if it's really hot there, and if you're in Norway or whatever, and if you have like this imbalance, there's a few things that is going to be helpful for all of us. And my all-time favorite practice is getting outside in the morning, having a little walking awareness meditation before breakfast, before starting my day, before I've been influenced a lot from the internet, from Facebook, from all of that. Just taking time to connect with the outer environment and feel into how that influences the inner environment, like the outer nature and the inner nature, if they're aligned, and how we connect, and what kind of impulses and signs it's going to give me for the rest of my day. So a good example for me would be to, if I go out like it is now in the middle of the winter, it's been really, really cold. It's been really snowy and it's dark in the morning and you're feeling cold and it's windy. And yeah, so you can describe that by some of the words that we talked about earlier. But it also helps me to notice, like when I come back, then it's breakfast time, and then, I've connected and I've got the feeling that, yeah, I'm going to have porridge for breakfast today. There's going to be warm tea and there's going to be nice, wholesome, whole porridge, and there's going to be warming spices, and there's going to be those things that helps to warm me up. It's not going to be a cold green juice, which might resonate if you're in Bali or somewhere else where it's really warm, but just getting a sense of that from nature and from what I've been exposed to, instead of just having a plan that says that, oh yeah, I think green juice is going to be the best thing for me to have every morning, no matter where I am in the world and no matter what the weather is. Really feeling how you adjust to the environment and the signs that nature is giving you and how that affects you. It's a really important practice, and it's also a great way to become aware of the influences and the way nature works. It's magic, and and influences us. So I would encourage you to maybe go for a little walk every morning. If you can't go for a walk, just try to be outside, open a window, take a couple of deep breaths, just feel what the air is like, if it's raining out there, if it's snowing, if it's sunny. Just really, really feel into that. And you might want to close your eyes, and you might want to take that as an opportunity to increase your awareness. And you can even, say that to yourself, like just try to describe what it feels like. Like, yeah, it's cold. The weather feels heavy today. It's cloudy. It's dark. And then you might want to switch it the other way and see, okay, so what would be the opposite qualities to these things? What can I do to balance these feelings or what I'm experiencing, and using that as a guide for the rest of your day, not just for your breakfast, but whatever you do, like what you dress, and might want to be with what you put on as jewelry, or how you get to work, or anything. You can just use your imagination, and just knowing that everything is connected, and that everything will have the opportunity to bring you into balance or to bring you further out of balance. So see everything as a means of getting back into balance, and that everything can be a medicine and can be a helpful way throughout the day. So that was the first little tips that I want to share with you, which has really, really helped me a lot, not just to gain clarity, but also as kind of setting the mode for the day and helping me navigate throughout the day to what I'm going to look for and choose to do. And the other thing, which is even simpler, is always have a hot drink in the morning. That's the only thing I allow myself to have before I go out for a walk. And a hot or warm, or maybe a lukewarm drink if you're someplace warm, it's still going to be really, really good for your digestion. It's a really good way of clearing out whatever has been going on through the night. And especially if you're prone to have, problems with your digestion, if there's constipation, if you have IBS and all that, just a hot, warm drink is going to help soothe the digestion, and it's also going to help to clear off and get it going in the morning. So it's kind of like doing the dishes. If you had a big party and there's lots of dirty dishes waiting for you in the morning, and you've put them, they're greasy and all of that, and you try putting them under cold water is just going to get even more stucky there, and it's going to be harder to get it off. But if you add some, put it under the hot water, it might start loosening up. And even better, if you want to add some detergent to that, you can do that in the form of a little bit of lime or lemon and some fresh ginger, which is going to work as the really, really good washing detergent to get those plates or your digestion really, really clean in the morning. So that's a very, very easy and helpful tip that I would recommend all of us trying to do. And on the note of having a warm drink, it's also important to notice that to take care of your digestion properly and to keep that digestive fire balanced and in a good shape, never have cold drinks with a hot meal. So don't put the fire out by having lots of cold drinks while you're eating a beautiful hot meal. And in general, actually, when you're eating, you don't want to have too much cold drinks with your meal. And the final little tips that I think would be beneficial to most people is, again, that little breathing awareness thing that we did in the beginning, like just really paying attention to your breath and knowing that's the quickest and fastest way that we can get into to peace and quiet, and to find rest and to get into that rest and digest mode, to ease down in the evening. So when going to bed, it's a really beautiful thing to do. Just take a few moments, be there with your breath. You might want to connect like we did, placing a hand on your heart, placing a hand on your belly, and take those deep, slow breaths and just releasing whatever's been going on through the day, releasing whatever's been in your mind, and just slowing down your mind, slowing down your body, and just be very, very present. And to many of us, just practicing that and just really making sure that you breathe properly and getting the air all the way down into your belly, that's actually more challenging than we might think. So just by practicing that, it can be a bit of something that takes a little bit of energy. But then when you get that release and you say that, wow, now I can just stop. Now I can slow down. My breathing can come back to natural. I don't have to force it. I can just allow it to be. Then most likely you're also going to feel like such a nice release in that. And it might just put you just into sleep, or at least into a very restful place that it's easy and too good to go to sleep from. Yeah. To use that to finish off your day, or any time during the day where you feel like it's becoming a bit too much, and that your body and or your mind needs to get to that place of calmness and of ease and peace. So that was my final little 3 tips for today. And we're actually almost an hour already. I was thinking like this is going to be a long time for me just to be speaking on myself, like hearing my own voice for an hour, but this has just gone super, super, super quick. Any questions now? Anything that comes up? Okay. Well, there's so much more that I could be saying, but I guess if I start opening a new door or a new window now, it's just gonna take a lot of time, and it's gonna get us all detoured into something else. But like I said, there's going to be a lot of research that's coming up that you can look into. And I'm also going to be doing a blog, which I'm looking really, really forward to. And there I can go into more specific topics, which I think is going to be super nice. And what I would really like, if you want to interact a bit, is making suggestions for topics that I might address on the blog. That's also good to know what might be of interest to you. And I'm just going to check out the thing that just popped up here now. If there's a recommendation for about how many hours per day rest is needed except for sleep. I can't say this because it's so individual, and it's not, again, just about quality or quantity or so. It might just be as much about quality. So the quality of your rest might be more important than the quantity of rest. So it can be individual, but it's important to feel into that. When you have rest, you're supposed to feel energized and rested afterwards. You're not going to be feeling stressed out. If you're sitting down coming from a place of not rest, and you sit down and your mind is not really there, and just trying to be restful can also feel a bit unrestful. So it's really about taking those small moments and feel that they serve you, instead of taking that, I need this much rest and I need this much, and that's also gonna possibly add on to the stress already. So also in that way, think about quality of rest instead of quantity. Not sure if that was helpful, but again, that would be my best suggestion. Learning again to feel into your body and what kind of rest it needs. Sometimes it may also differ, that it's your mind that needs more rest. The constant stimuli that we get in through our senses that has to be digested with our minds, or if it's our bodies that need rest, if we have been pushing ourselves really hard. So yes, it all works together, but you could also become more aware of what kind of rest is most important for you. Any other things? Okay, then I'm just going to take a moment, just a couple of finishing words here. And again, thank you all for joining us here today. It's really wonderful. Even though I can't see you, I feel that we're in this presence of, wanting each other so well, just want to be here for each other, that we're really holding space. There's no judgment here. There's no jealousy. There's no feeling that we have to perform or anything. It just feels really, really good to share this, as I know that all of us has so many beautiful offerings and so many beautiful qualities and knowledge to share with each other. So having this space, this place that Charlotte has created, it's such a super, super wonderful opportunity. And it's still that little flower, and it's going to be so interesting to see how it can continue to bloom, and how we can all participate in nourishing and nurturing it and watering it and looking after it, and see what kind of magic it's going to work and become into. Okay, so just a couple of finishing words to round this up. A little note that it's called the knowledge of the self. Remember, you are not your brain. You are the user of your brain. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who witnesses the thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the one that experiences emotions. You are not your physical body, you are the one that lives inside the body. With every breath, allow yourself to create space between the false you, these illusions of you, and the true you. Breathe in light and truth, and breathe out fear and illusion. Beneath the wandering thoughts, the floods of emotions and bodily sensations, is the pure, wise, vibrant, and omnipresent you. And may this be the foundation for your existence. Om Namaste and thank you.